and welcome to another session of Let's Get Real with Mona Naidoo. That's me, Mona Naidoo. I'm an abundant living coach, an executive mentor, a women's empowerment coach as well, a human behavior specialist, a teacher of sacred wisdom, a philanthropist, and an advocate for humanity. And yes, in these sessions, I share stories and teachings to inspire you to turn your dreams into reality. So welcome and thank you for joining today. Now I know things are a bit wobbly out there. You feel them, don't you? I just want you to take a moment right now. Just take a moment and just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath and connect with the essence of you. You know, so much is going on, and sometimes we can forget to breathe. If you feel like taking another breath, please do. Because this is what it is when we stop for just a second or two, when we slow down for a moment or two. It just helps us to just connect to the present moment instead of thinking what happened or what's to happen and then getting into a flurry. So how are you feeling right now? Just with taking a breath or two. I know you'd definitely be feeling a little bit better. And then you'll be ready to receive whatever it is you are to receive from the session today. Now in today's session, we're looking at compassion. Now, did you know that, compassion is also a concept or a topic or a subject that can be misunderstood? Because you see, sometimes compassionate acts which we think are helping others could actually be causing the receiver or the receivers more harm, or it could be detrimental to them. Now, what I'm also going to be sharing in this session is how to express compassion from an expanded state. How to then use that expanded state to align to your abundance. Now, how's that sound to you so far? Now, you know me by now. I love looking at definitions of words because let's be honest, let's bring in and anchor in what we've all been taught. And we are finding out slowly that what we've been taught and what we've accepted as truth isn't always so. And in these sessions, what I invite you to do is to expand your understanding of concepts, of ways of being, to just expand who you are, because every time you get to expand and you're able to open up to unlearn and then relearn and then unlearn and relearn as many times as it's required for you to expand your consciousness, well, that's when the magic happens. So are you ready for today's lesson on compassion? So here goes. Now let's have a look at what the Oxford Dictionary has to say about compassion. So according to the Oxford Dictionary, now I grew up with an Oxford Dictionary. I'm not sure about you, but here in South Africa, remember, we had the Queen's English, so we have the Oxford Dictionary here. And what the Oxford Dictionary says is that compassion is sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. Now, just keep that in your pocket somewhere. The Cambridge Dictionary says that compassion is a strong feeling of sympathy and sadness for the suffering or bad luck of others and a wish to help them. And Merriam-Webster says that compassion is sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with a desire to alleviate it. Now, I'm sure you've noticed a common theme between Merriam-Webster as well as the Cambridge Dictionary. Because you see, very often, before I get into what the commonality there is between the two compared to the Oxford Dictionary, because let me just check. Yeah, Oxford Dictionary didn't have what's in the other two. You see, very often we can confuse empathy and compassion. Now, when you look at empathy, empathy is like feeling what the other person is feeling. Well, if we want to understand what compassion is that we feel for the other person. And we also do something to alleviate the challenging circumstances that they are in. So that's the simplest way to understand the difference between empathy and compassion. And some people attempted to use this interchangeably, but actually they are two different words and they have two different meanings and two different ways to express them. So just to recap, empathy is when you're actually feeling what the other person's feeling. So you're sitting there with them with feeling their pain or their suffering or whatever it is. And with compassion, it takes that to the next level and people actually go out and do something to alleviate that pain and suffering of another, right? Now, who are you? Are you someone who is, do you come from empathy or do you come from compassion? Do you feel for others or do you feel for others and you do something to contribute to the alleviation of whatever it is the person's going through? I'd love to know. So please leave me a comment. Now, what I found very interesting about these dictionary meanings or these formal official definitions of the word compassion is the word pity, right? Now, before we even go to that, some people even say that the real meaning of compassion is to suffer together. Now, I'm going to say a big no to that. I'm going to say a big no to pity, and I'm going to say a big no to suffering with others. And you're going to understand as we go through the session why both those are negative for you and your abundance, as well as for the person or people or persons that you are intending to support through your compassionate acts. Now, firstly, some of these meanings that says that, well, the literal meaning of compassion is to suffer together. But now, can you imagine if you go and sit and place yourself energetically in the same spot where the other person is? Now, who's going to pull you out? And the other person. Who's going to then come to assist you and the other person? And then they then go sit in and suffer with you, right? So some of these meanings can actually keep us in a lower vibration rather than lift us up. Now, when we look at it, and if we look at suffering, suffering is there to help us show up more powerfully for others. It's not for us to go sit in it, because that's not what compassion is. Compassion doesn't mean that we have to suffer together, because some people take that meaning literally. And when you look at communities like here in South Africa, some people are so empathic in their nature that they feel the pain and they become paralyzed by the pain of others and they are unable to do anything else. And here they are being compassionate. They would even go in to serve and do things. The thing is that they are getting drawn into the suffering instead of standing there and raising the frequency so that it shifts for everyone, right? Now, the other word I asked you to pay attention to is the word pity. Now, here's the thing. Most often, compassion is linked to altruism. So we come with this understanding that compassion is here to be expressed to those who are suffering. And when I look at and I'm going to say it like this, the first world countries, and when they look at places like South Africa or India or South America and other places that are regarded as third world countries around the world, right? It's as if we are looked at with pity. It's as if instead of looking or holding the highest vision for us, people feel sorry for us. People feel sad for us. Now, I say this because we've experienced this from the outside world. We've experienced this from the first world countries. And then here in our own communities, what do you think we've done? I've even come from that place where I didn't fully understand the concept of compassion. You see, compassion is a high vibrational spiritual concept, and it's never to feel pity for anyone. It is to hold the highest vision for them and everyone and everything around us. Compassion is all about opening your heart and just sharing that love. And I've seen in this country how so many people have non-profit organizations, charitable organizations. And when they go into the places to serve others, they get drawn into it. They do not understand that everything has to be given from our overflow. When we give from our overflow, we empower those we give to. And this is how our acts of compassion can actually negatively impact others. Because when we look at people through the eyes of pity, when we look at them and we feel sorry for people, we aren't lifting them up. We aren't sending them into the kingdom of light. We're keeping them down in the trenches. Now, how does that sit with you? You see, it's the same for when we see people begging. Now, I don't know which part of the world you are in, but here in South Africa, well, there seems to be, little pockets of this all around, no matter which suburb you live in. And what is so heartbreaking is that people hand out money from the windows of their car, through the windows of their car as they're driving by. And so much of this is all orchestrated. Begging in most countries is orchestrated. It is, syndicates that put people there in order to get money. And the message we're sending out to, even if it was someone who was, and I'm going to use this in quotes, legitimately begging, is that we don't see anything better for them, right? We give out of pity. We don't give to uplift. We don't give because we see potential. And that's what compassion is all about. Compassion is being there and supporting someone through a temporary situation that is challenging them. That's what compassion is all about. It's about standing there next to the person and giving them the strength to stand up on their own 2 feet. And then when they can stand up on their own 2 feet, then they can share whatever it is that they have with others. And then you move on and you share it with someone else and someone else, right? It's about giving people the courage to stand up on their own and having this little hand at the back. Like when we worked with the patients who had suffered stroke in Tembisa, each one had to share their strengths with others, no matter what it was. And that was, for me, compassion in action. Because isn't that what Mother Teresa was all about? She was all about compassion in action, Mother Teresa did not go to India, and I think she had centers around, what do they say, like 500 centers around the world, because she felt sorry for everybody that she saw. No, she was able to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for her philanthropic work because she could see beyond the suffering of people. So I'm going to invite you right now. How have you been expressing compassion? Has it been because you felt bad? And that's another word you must, or a phrase you must be aware of. When you feel bad for someone, be aware immediately. Stop and realize that you're not serving them or yourself. When you feel bad for someone else, you're dropping your vibration, and whatever you give to that person doesn't uplift, it drops them further down. And I'm sure you don't want to do that. All right. So I love what Mother Teresa says about compassion. She says to her, so this is how she says, "To me, God and compassion are one and the same. Compassion is the joy of sharing. It's doing small things for the love of each other. Just a smile, or carrying a bucket of water, or showing some simple kindness. These are small things that make up compassion." Now, what a beautiful way to look at it, right? That compassion and God are one and the same thing. And that compassion should be expressed as the joy of sharing, right? It's not something that should feel heavy. It's not something that should make us feel pity or sadness or sorrow or bad because someone is going through something. It should be a joy of sharing because someone may require us to show up for them in whatever way we're being asked to be compassionate. And at some point, someone may show up for us because we all go through this experience of some form of challenge in our life. We all go through these ebbs and flows, and we all at some point require someone there to give us a hand to pull us up. Now, for me, when I look at compassion, as I say, I've really been in the depths of townships that are really challenged here in South Africa. And I've seen some places where you wonder, how do these people get up every day and still show up for life? And they do it with a smile on their face. And in the beginning, I have to admit, I was really challenged when I looked at them with pity, when I didn't understand that they were here to give me a gift to open my heart, that they were here to give me a gift to expand my heart, because the more my heart expanded, I could share that love with them, and they could use that as fuel to improve their situation. And the more I delve deeper into it, yes, my dog's barking, because he wants to go play it right now, and I've got to give him some attention pretty soon. And it goes out, and each time I go out and I'm in those communities, I realize that when I'm feeling contracted, I can't offer love. But when I allow myself to just radiate and allow love to be the essence, then I can show up and I share that and I spread that around, and then that person picks it up and shares it with others. And as long as I'm holding space for whoever it is that's going through whatever, whether it's in the swatted camps, whether it's a friend down the road, whether it's someone in Europe or someone in the USA, And I just hold the highest vision for them that I can possibly hold for them. That's my offering of compassion. You know, whether I send someone a message, whether I let someone go in front of me at the grocery counter, that's compassion. And now remember, we cannot give to others what we are unable to give to ourselves. So everything first starts with us. Everything that we so willingly want to share with others, we must be able to give to ourselves first. Because you know by now, what we can give to ourselves, when we give it to others as well, it is just so expanded. It just makes everybody feel so good. And then you realize you don't have to give too much. Because you know how the frequency of love works. Just a little bit goes everywhere. What does it say? The frequency of love and above can impact 750,000 people. Because that's exactly what it is. You see, compassion is underneath the umbrella of love. For compassion to exist, there has to be love, right? Love is the key ingredient for compassion to exist. So compassion does come through an open heart. It comes through an expanded heart. And the more open and expanded our heart is, well, it radiates love. And the more love we radiate, we are in such a space of sharing and giving and receiving. It's this beautiful cycle. And you know what love is? The frequency of abundance. And then what happens to you? Well, all you can attract when you are in the frequency of abundance is more abundance. Now it sounds simple. And some minds may be going and saying, this is too simple. Yes, it is. It is that simple. And that's the unlearning and relearning. That's the rewiring that we have to effect in our neural pathways. Now, I'd love to leave you with this quote from Mother Teresa, that the fruit of love is service, which is compassion in action. So whatever we do, whether it's through a philanthropic cause, whether it's through our everyday work, whether it's in our business or our career or a job that we do, if we can understand that service leads us to express compassion, you know, we would be in that state all the time. We would be in this expansive state all the time, that no matter what we do, it doesn't only have to be to people in states of extreme, challenges or despair or suffering. It can be someone next door to you. It can be a colleague that you could just offer a helping hand to. It could be someone that may have just dropped their bag of groceries on the street and you're helping them pick it up. It could be someone that just required to have a smile today. So for me, the golden rule of compassion is to treat others the way you would love to be treated. Go out into the world, radiate love, and receive love. Because that's what true service is. And that's what a compassionate act looks like. So, I'd love to hear what resonated with you today. I'd love to hear how you express compassion. I'd love to hear what you're going to do this week that may be a little different to how you have been looking at compassion, and how you are going to show up when you see somebody else that's experiencing a challenge, are you going to give them compassion from an expanded state, or are you going to give it from a contracted state? Now, I know what you're going to choose. Definitely the expanded state. So I'm going to wish you well, and I'd love to hear from you and how you are expressing compassion from an expanded state in everything that you do and everyone that you interact with. So until next time, ciao for now.